Angahang Vajraguru Padmasindhi Hang Angahang Vajraguru Padmasindhi Hang Angahang Vajraguru Padmasindhi Hang Angahang Vajraguru Padmasindhi Hang Angahang Vajraguru Padmasindhi Angahang Vajraguru Padmasindhi Hang Angahang Vajraguru Padmasindhi Hang. All right, everybody, warm welcome. Full moon meditation practice. Hope you're not having any lunar symptoms. Some people have very lunatic-like symptoms during the full moon. So you can excuse yourself. Actually, nowadays, no matter what's happening, you can find someone who says, oh, that's because of this retrograde and that moon and that Mars and that Saturn and that planet. Always there's something you can say, oh, it's not my fault. Something is happening. So good to have you all, and from different parts of the world. And today my book arrived. So for the first time, I got to hold the book. Becomes a little bit more real when you hold it. I'm not sure if it's focusing. So it's a book of some of the things that I've been teaching over the years. It's a pretty big collaborative effort. So a lot of people helped me put this book together. A lot of my talks were transcribed, and then there was a lot of editing done. So I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty nice. And I think my favorite style of reading these days is just to open random pages. Because I have so many books, I can't read them. Open a random page and typically you get whatever you need. So at some point we might open some random pages of this book. So you can order one if you like it. Right now it's available in India and some other countries that will soon be available. And you can get it on Kindle as well. And this is, I think, the first full moon that we're having for this year. So I have a slight change in format. So we will continue to have full moon and new moon practice, but now it will be based on some themes. And let me just see if I can show you the work that's gone into this. So what I did was, a few months back, I asked people who have done something or the other with me, a retreat or a course or whatever, and I asked them, can you share with me 24 things that has stayed with you, that you found most impactful? So a lot of people replied, actually a very large number of people. I was amazed how many people responded to that. And then I got help from some volunteers. In fact, I want to name them because it was a lot of work. So Shefali and Anamika and Prerna and Smita and Supriya, and to some extent Vivek, all of them contributed a lot of their time and energy going through literally, say, thousands of bits of information. And just to give you a sense of how complicated, just to give you some sense of this, let me just share the Excel sheet, what it looks like. Where is it hiding? So I think we have to go. Yeah. So if I can, let's start here. So if you see this, these are all the things that you people listed. The different things you found useful and helpful. This is like hundreds of lines. Not even sure how to use this. Okay. So these are different keywords. Imagine how many things there are over here. So different things people listed, different keywords. And then they consolidated it into the different names of people who said what. And then they counted the keywords, how often what keyword is appearing. And see the different keywords. Oh my goodness, it's crazy. How many different things people have learned and what they found useful. I mean, there's like so many things here. And then different course topics. This is just to give you a sense of how much work went into this. And they cleaned up the course topics. So finally, we have something that looks like, can I share with you the report? So then these were the top things that people found most useful. I think there are 26, there are 24 things here. The thing that people found most useful are things like gratitude, Brahma Viharas. And if you don't know what that is, don't worry, I'll be covering that in this year. EFT, Ho'oponopono, power of intention, and so on. And how often people mentioned what. So most of the time people mentioned intention, teachings, and practices. And then they also talked about foundation. Again, these are keywords which we understand more, but I'll explain them more to you as we go along. Top 10 foundational teachings, top 10 intention teachings. So you don't have to really understand all of this. I just felt like sharing this with you. A lot of work went into this over many months. And based on this, I have identified 24 different topics, which we'll be looking at in this coming year. So what's going to happen now is every full moon and every new moon, we'll take up at least one topic and we'll explore it more deeply. Bhargavi, what are you saying? You're raising your hand. Go ahead.
I think that was a mistake. Sorry. I was wondering whose hand that was.
Whose hand is that?
I didn't know that I raised it. Okay, Nithya, just okay. Actually, I just wanted to say that I'm waiting for your copy, and I think it will be delivered this Saturday. Let me just go through that.
Oh, wonderful.
That's it.
Great. Thanks, Bhargavi.
Yeah.
All right. So today, the theme that I'd like to cover is I'd like to take up the topic of impermanence, right? So let's practice this in the time that we have together. So please sit comfortably. And it's not just about talking about impermanence, it's about getting an experience of it. To directly experience change has a much bigger impact than just thinking about it. So in today's practice, I will try to emphasize again and again, what's it like to directly experience change? I'll give you a simple example. When I was living as a monk, there was something our teacher said, which I found very intriguing. He would hold up a cup and he would say, "You seeing this cup?" He said, "I want you to see it like it's already broken." I said, "Why should we see it like it's already broken? It's a perfectly fine cup." He said, "Because its destiny is to break one day." So I found this quite puzzling that you should see a cup like it's already broken. But then I understood one day I was helping out and by my mistake, cup broke. So everyone looked at me and I smiled and said, "It was already broken." And I said, "Okay." So when you see things as already broken, you don't cry so much when they break because you know they're going to break one day, right? And not that you should go around breaking things. But the point is you understand that things are going to come to an end. So you're not as shocked as you would be otherwise. It's a very interesting way of looking at the world. It doesn't make you careless. In fact, in some ways, it makes you more caring. Like in Japan, which also is very influenced by Buddhist philosophy, you might have heard of this. Some of you know the meaning of what's the Japanese term? When they break a cup, they join it again. There's actually a word with K. I'm forgetting what it is. One of you can Google it. So I don't know how to pronounce that. Kitsugi? Okay. That's something like that. So basically you have to, you take the broken cup and you repair it with gold enamel. So it becomes even more beautiful than before. And I remember attending, when I was in Japan, a tea ceremony. And when they gave us the cups, some of those cups were 200-300 years old. So imagine with what love and care they'd been kept for 200 or 300 years. So when the host gives you the cup, he or she will present the most beautiful part of the cup facing you. The first thing you do is you don't sip it. The first thing you do is you take the cup and you admire the cup. This cup has been handed down in this family for 200 or 300 years in some cases. In this case, it was. We just admire the cup. And then you don't drink it. You first offer it to the person next to you. There's a whole ritual around the tea ceremony. So you offer to the person next to you. And the person says, no, thank you. Mine's also coming. It's all right. And that's the ceremony. You're not supposed to drink it before you offer it. Like in Lucknow, they say, pehle aap. So first you offer to the person next. Because it's very rude to just drink, right? I mean, in Japan, I realized basically what a rude person I am. Because I realized I'm doing everything wrong. So then you take the cup, you first offer to the person next to you. They say no. In other words, they say it's coming. So, and then you don't drink from the best part of the cup, but that would again be rude. So you turn the cup 90 degrees. So your lip is touching not the best part of the cup. I just found this very beautiful. So it can actually make you, even though in their tradition, if you break something, it can be repaired with gold enamel. But that doesn't make them care less. In fact, it makes them more caring, right? So to see things as impermanent doesn't mean you say, okay, who cares? There's a difference between never mind and don't care. When someone says, I don't mind, and someone says, I don't care, there's a very big difference. So why are we practicing impermanence? Because first of all, that's the reality. You may not like it, but that's the reality. The reality is everything changes. Right? So today's theme is impermanence, change. That's actually one of the themes that all of you identified as one of the most powerful things you've learned over the years. So we're going to explore this in more detail. And we'll explore it in different ways. The word for change in the Buddhist tradition is anicca. Anicca comes from the Sanskrit word anitya. And you can see how that's similar to my name, Nithya. So Nithya is unchanging or abiding or stable. And anitya is changing, unstable. And my teacher, Ajahn Chah, had a very unique take on this. He wouldn't call it impermanent. He used a different word. He would say uncertain. It is uncertain, which is a very different way of looking at it, a very unique way of looking at it. He wouldn't see things as constantly changing. I mean, that's of course true, but he would emphasize a different aspect of it. He said it's uncertain. And in Thai language, the phrase is mai ne, mai ne. Mai ne means not sure. Not a sure thing. So he would encourage people to look at life like it's not sure. There was a man who came to him once he'd been coming to Ajahn Chah for 20, 30 years, long time, maybe even longer than that. He'd been a local villager who'd been supporting the monastery in Ajahn Chah for many, many years. And one day he said to Ajahn Chah, I have a big complaint against you. Ajahn Chah said, what happened? Why do you have a big complaint? He said, for so many years, I've been supporting you, I've been donating, I've been giving my time and energy. And I've only had one simple request. Please read my fortune. Because in Thailand, they really believe in all of this. Please read my future. And you have never done it. Because Ajahn Chah didn't believe in all of these things. And all these years, you've never once done it. And I know you have the power to do it, but you will not do it. So I'm very upset with you. So Ajahn said, all right, give me your hand. He says, really? He said, yeah, give me your hand. So he gives his hand with he's very enthusiastic. So Ajahn Chah starts looking at his hand very carefully. And he makes all these sounds. Oh, that also. Oh my. He said, tell me. He says, wait. He keeps looking at it. Nicely 4 or 5 minutes, he looks at his hand. He examines his hand from all directions. He says, your future. He says, yes, tell me. He says, your future. My ne. Uncertain. Your future is uncertain. So next time you go to an astrologer or anybody else and they say, this is happening. You say, all right. And then you say, my ne. You say, what is my ne? Not sure. If any astrologer is truthful, they will have to admit it's my ne. It's not a sure thing. Right? So it's a very interesting take on impermanence. Not a sure thing. Don't hold on to things so tightly. If you look at the suffering that's caused in your life, how much of it is coming because you're resisting the mine aspect of life? You want things to be certain, but they are inherently uncertain. Mine, not sure, not a sure thing, not a sure thing. Which is the word, the beautiful word, right? That we all are so familiar with, expectation. I expected myself to be like this, you to be like this, life to be like this, the economy to be like this. And it's not following my expectations. So Ajahn Chah would smile and say, mine, not a sure thing. What if you make mine your foundation? Will you be disappointed? Ajahn Chah was once walking with a fellow monk. This is years back. He was walking Tudong. Tudong is when you walk from place to place. You don't have a fixed place you're staying. And they came to the ruins of an ancient monastery, ancient stupa in Thailand. And the other monk, because it was really in ruins, but obviously it had been there for centuries, the other monk lamented and said, look at the state of the dharma in our country. We are not taking care of our heritage. I think you and I also in India, we feel this. We go to places, oh, look at this ancient temple, ancient shivling, ancient something. And we're not taking care of it. It's just falling apart. So he had that monk had that same spirit. He said, what is this? We're not taking care of our heritage. These places are just falling apart. It's getting overgrown with grass and this and that. And Ajahn Chah said something very remarkable, very startling. He said, if it was not like this, the Buddha would be a liar. I said, what are you talking about? Said, yeah, one of the main teachings of the Buddha. Things change. So if it was not like this, Buddha would be a liar. If it had always to remain in pristine condition, the Buddha would be a liar. The Buddha is not a liar. Things change. So this is, although inside, even he was feeling, even Ajahn Chah was feeling sad, looking at the state of that place. But he took a different approach to it. So this is the nature of things. Things arise and things fade away. Things arise and things fade away. When I would offer flowers, I would ask, I was quite curious. I'd ask my teacher, why do we offer flowers to the Buddha? Why do we light a candle? Why do we light incense? So I liked the answers my teacher gave me. He said, you offer flowers to contemplate impermanence. I said, why is that? He said, look at these flowers. They're so fresh in the morning. They're so fresh. They're so fragrant. And you offer them to the Buddha. And by the time evening comes, they're already fading. And by the next day, you don't feel like even holding them anymore. They're already beginning to dissolve. They're getting quite slimy. He says, we offer flowers as a sign of every time you offer flowers, there are different levels at which you can offer flowers. One is just the joy of offering flowers, the fragrance of the nice beauty it creates. That's one level. But the deeper level, my teacher said, is when you offer flowers, remind yourself that your body, which right now looks like this fresh flower, will one day look like that evening flower or the 2-day, 3-day, 5-day-old flower. He said, if you think like this every time you offer the flower, then you'll not be disappointed when the white hairs start coming, and the teeth start cracking, and the skin starts wrinkling. You'll not apply 3 layers of sunscreen to protect yourself. That's the nature of things. That's how it goes, right? You'll not go for Botox and other kinds of things. Why would you want to fight this? It's the nature of things. So you can, instead of aging, you will be saging. I would like you all to not age, but to sage. Sage is you make peace. You make peace with the nature of things. You're not in opposition to the nature of things. So let's now get into a practice of further contemplating impermanence. I'm going to name different things and different aspects of life. And at some point, I'll ask for your suggestions as well. For now, I'm just going to name them. And I want you to immediately think of how that also is in some way changing, impermanent, unstable, not sure, mine, uncertain. Let's start with the easy ones. So for example, the weather. The weather. Think of how the weather is changing day by day, minute by minute. Weather is changing. Temperature is changing, pressure is changing, humidity is changing. Notice how it's changing. Notice how it's always been changing. It is currently changing in this moment. And it will continue to be changing. And no matter how hard they try to predict the weather, it will forever be somewhat unpredictable, somewhat uncertain. Mine, not a sure thing. Notice how not only the outer weather, it was interesting in geography class, my teacher pointed out the difference between weather and climate. You know the difference? So climate tends to be more long-term, right? So climate in maybe Maharashtra, climate in New Delhi. Weather will change, but climate tends to be more stable. In Delhi, you can expect such winters, you can expect such summers. Well, the truth is even climate is changing. We call it climate change. But in any case, it's always changing. No one place has forever stable climate. And over the hundreds and thousands and millions of years, climate is also changing. Even though it's a little bit more stable than weather, it is still changing. So outer weather, outer climate, notice how it's changing, and it'll continue to be changing. And you can like it, you can dislike it, you can be afraid of it. It just is what it is. It's changing. In fact, when I say those two words, climate change, notice what happens inside of you. Sometimes your state of being can change listening to that. There can be fears that come up and hopelessness that comes up and different feelings that come up for different people, anger that comes up. So by just hearing those words, a change got created in your inner climate. How about the climate of your family? How was the climate of your family when you were growing up? Notice how that's also been changing. Maybe it improved. Maybe it's gotten worse. Things have changed in some way. The climate of your family is changing. Then a really important one, which kind of covers everything, but it's worth doing, is sensory experience. So notice how in this precise moment, what you're seeing is changing. In some way, it's changing. So sights are changing. What you're hearing is changing. In fact, it was interesting for me to note that all sensory experience only happens because of change. Photons will work on the rods and cones of your eyes. Sound pressure waves will move your eardrums, vibrate the eardrums. Taste will activate the sensors on your tongue, and so on. Every sensory experience is dependent on change. If it wasn't for change, there would not be a sensory experience. So sounds are changing. They have been changing. They're presently changing. They will continue to change. Tastes are changing. They have been changing. They're presently changing. They will continue to change. Emotions are changing. Emotional states are changing. They are presently changing. They will continue to change. You know, the more you contemplate this, it becomes really clear that much of our suffering comes when we just want things to be a certain way. I just want to see these kinds of things. I just want to hear these kinds of things. I just want to smell. It's such a simple request. I mean, it's so simple. I'm a simple person. I just want the best, most pleasant experiences always. Such a simple request. Is it asking for too much? But as you know, pleasant is only in comparison to the unpleasant. Have you noticed after on the last day of your examinations, the sky looks so blue and the grass looks so green and the world looks like a happy place? Last day of your exam, you're finally given that last examination paper. It's because the pressure is off, right? The sky is as blue as ever, but we were not noticing earlier. So what we call pleasure also is only compared to something unpleasant, isn't it? So when you start contemplating how sensory experience is changing, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, then you realize it's foolish to want to hold on to any experience because you can't. That's a formula for suffering. So then a different kind of pleasure arises. And I can only compare it to surfing. You know, when you surf on the ocean, then the waves are constantly changing. But on that wave, you can surf. It's not easy. You'll fall flat on your face most of the time. Or worse, the surfboard will come and hit your head. But once in a while, you'll have that exhilarating feeling, even if it's for 3 or 4 seconds. It's because I was trying to learn surfing some time back. Even if you can just 3 or 4 seconds, you feel like, whoa, what just happened? Amazing. It's an exhilarating feeling of being in sync with that change. You are instantly adapting to those waves, instantly. Because you're instantly adapting to them. You're riding the wave. You're not being crushed by the wave. You're going with the wave at the speed of the wave. So then instead of trying to hold on to experiences, we start to relish the being with the experience, knowing that it's changing, knowing that it's dissolving. It's very fascinating. So you can be there, you can enjoy it also, but you know that it's dissolving, it's changing. So there's no holding on. I think this is a really important skill for everyone to learn. The art of enjoying without holding on so tight. The art of being patient when the unpleasant arises. And in some secret way, which is hard to describe, you can even enjoy that. Because you know a certain refinement is happening. Like, for example, maybe when you exercise, it's not always pleasant, right? Exercising can be sometimes hot and sweaty and painful. But something in you knows the refinement is happening. I'm getting stronger. It's a good kind of pain. So you know that you're becoming, sadistic or something. What's the word? Masochistic? What's that word when you enjoy pain? It's not that. It's actually that you realize that something good is happening out of this. So when the unpleasant comes, then there also some refinement is happening. How will your mirror be polished, says Rumi, if you complain with every rub? So not only is sensory experience changing, eyes themselves are changing. Have you noticed your eyesight? How it was and how it is. Eyesight. Eyes themselves change. Ears themselves change. Taste, smell. All of the instruments of perception are themselves changing. So now what is not changing? The objects of our experience are changing. That which is having the experience is changing. And the Buddha says, even the consciousness that arises in that moment. Because you see, a dead man also has eyes and the objects are there. Light is going into the eyes, but there's no seeing happening. There's no hearing happening. There's no smelling, tasting, touching happening. So the Buddha says there's also sense consciousness. So there's eye consciousness, smell or nose consciousness, ear consciousness. He said there's consciousness associated with each of these things. And the Buddha says that also is changing. That is also changing. It arises in that moment, it's there. Those three things, the object, the I, and the consciousness. Those three come together, he calls it contact. Phassa, the word in Pali is phassa. Some sensory object, some sense door, and the consciousness. When those three are present, phassa, contact. Any one of the three is absent, you cannot have it. Like for example, if the ears are not functioning, or the sound is not present, or the consciousness is not there, any one of those three is absent, there's no contact. And based on contact, there is Vedana. And what is Vedana? Vedana is feeling. What is feeling? Three kinds of feeling: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. And now this is a very critical point, because when this pleasant, unpleasant, neutral arises, the underlying tendencies get stirred up. What is the underlying tendency? When pleasant arises, you want to hold on to it. It shouldn't go away. So there is stickiness, there is attachment. There is greed. I want more of this. When unpleasant arises, the underlying tendencies of aversion. This should not be. Why is this happening? This should not happen to me. What have I done to deserve this? So the underlying tendencies of wanting to push away shouldn't be happening. Why is it happening? Aversion, the underlying tendency of the aversion gets stirred up. And when neutral feelings arise, then the underlying tendency of boredom or restlessness gets stirred up. Ignorance gets stirred up. Not knowing, confusion gets stirred up. So the important point here is that in the moment of, and you cannot escape contact. I mean, you can't just tape up your eyes forever. You can't just tape up your ears forever. You can't just tape up your tongue forever. You can't just put some, I guess you can put a mask on, which will still smell stuff. These days we all taped up on our nose. But you still end up smelling stuff. So you cannot tape it up forever. That's going to happen, right? So as long as you're alive and your senses are functioning, and there'll be objects, and there'll be a sense door, and there'll be sense consciousness. So that contact will happen. When contact happens, the feeling will also happen. Like for example, when you take a stick and you hit a bell, there will be a vibration. You can't prevent the vibration from happening. The vibration will happen. And now there are three kinds of feelings. Broadly, of course, you can get subtle about it, but there are broadly three kinds: pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. Now, this is a very critical point. Now, here you can go in two directions. So if you're not aware, you're not conscious, then you go into the direction of Dukkha Chakra, Dukkha Samudaya, Dukkha Chakra, Dukkha Samvardhan, which is Dukkha means suffering. So suffering, stickiness, heaviness, that starts. So I call it a ball of glue. Ball of glue means I want. I don't want. Why is it happening? Why is it happening? Why is it happening? Shouldn't be happening. This becomes your mantra, unconscious mantra. How can I get more? How can this go away? I don't know. I don't even know what's happening. I found this very funny quote which said that some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen, like on the news. Some people make things happen. Some people watch things happen. And some people say, what happened? So that's ignorance. You don't even know what happened. So sometimes you say things and do things, and your friends point out to you, what are you doing? Say, oh, shucks, I'm doing that. Really? That's ignorance. You don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know your habitual patterns. That's ignorance. That's confusion. So to notice when you're not conscious, you cannot help but these three things happening. You cannot help but pleasant leading to some kind of stickiness, unpleasant leading to some kind of aversion, and neutral leading to some kind of boredom or restlessness or confusion. So now this is the critical point. Why are we discussing impermanence today? Because when these things arise, when pleasant arises, when unpleasant arises, when neutral arises, first thing is become aware, oh, pleasant experience. Oh, unpleasant experience. Oh, neutral experience. This is the nature of this life. Sometimes it's pleasant. Sometimes it's unpleasant. Sometimes it's neutral. It's not because I'm a good person or bad person. It's not because God likes me or doesn't like me. It's not because I pay my taxes or not. None of that. It's just the nature of things. Even if you pray every day, and even if you do 108 Surya Namaskars, and you do your mantras, and you put your hand sanitizer every time you touch anything, still you will have pleasant, you will have unpleasant, and you will have neutral experiences. So the superstition starts going, yeah, this is the nature of life. Just because I'm doing good doesn't mean I'll always have pleasant experiences. I will also have unpleasant, also have neutral. What is the nature of these three experiences? Anicca. What is anicca? Changing. Anicca. Maine. What is maine? Unsure, uncertain. It's changing. So at this juncture, if you can bring up awareness, it's very simple. When pleasant is arising, know that pleasant is arising. When unpleasant is arising, know that unpleasant is arising. When neutral is arising, know that neutral is arising. And know the nature of it. What is the nature of it? Changing, impermanent. Not as a mental construct, as a living experience. Know that it's changing. Breath is changing. Sounds are changing. Feelings are changing. If you can be attuned to this changing aspect of what is arising in your experience, now instead of dukkha chakra, dukkha samudaya gamini, you have the opposite. You have instead of the ball of glue, you have the dharma chakra. You have the ball of wool. Ball of glue keeps on accumulating. Ball of wool keeps getting smaller as it rolls on. And that's the taste. So we can actually train ourselves to enjoy no matter what is happening. Like there's a lovely phrase, har hal mein khushi, har baat mein khushi. Man chahi ho to acha, na ho to aur bhi acha. Let thy will be done, let thy will be done. These kinds of things start making sense then. We pray to God to change our circumstances, not knowing that the circumstances were given so we could change. But we don't want to change, we just want the circumstances to change. So if you pray really hard, they may even change. But you know what you've done? You just kick the football ahead. What happens when you kick the football ahead? A little while later, the football's there again. You kick it again, but then it's there again. So it's not really doing anything because you haven't really dealt with it, You just postponed it. So the deeper prayer is not that may this go away and may that come. The deeper prayer is give me the capacity. Not change this or change that, but give me the capacity that no matter what it is, I can learn and I can love and I can let go and I can laugh. Give me the capacity to grow from this. How does that happen? It happens as we dedicate our life to a life of awareness. See, without this wisdom, we will dedicate our life to trying to maximize pleasant experiences, minimize unpleasant experiences, as well as the neutral experiences. We'll get very bored with the neutral. We get very restless in the neutral. And if you have any level of self-awareness, self-reflection, by now, you're quite exhausted of all of this. How much? Kitna aur karenge bhaiya? How much longer? Same game we've been playing for a very long time. Ajahn Chah had gone to the UK. Ajahn Chah didn't speak much English here. In fact, almost no English. He spoke Thai. So he'd been invited to the UK. And this college student, this young lady came up. And she had no exposure to Buddhism before. She didn't know anything, but she was attracted to this teacher and this teaching. And she came. She was a college student, so she came. And like everybody else, they were doing it. So she also bowed down. She didn't know what she was doing. She bowed down. And she looked up at Ajahn Chah. And Ajahn Chah just looked into her eyes. And he said something in Thai. And the monk next to him translated. There was the British monk next to him that translated. So he said, Ajahn is saying, how much longer? He looked deep into her eyes and said, how much longer? And she burst into tears. And she got it. He was saying, how much longer are you going to play the same game? Same game over and over again. Are you not tired of it yet? So she ordained as a nun. She's one of the most senior Western nuns. She's still a nun. It just took 2 words, 3 words. How much longer? So for those who are ripe, just a little bit of a nudge is enough. For those who are not ripe, then you can slap them left, right, and center. No difference. Like those, what are those toys when you punch them on the nose, they come right back up again. Punch them again, they come right back up. They say that in the sutras, they say that, there are some horses, they see the shadow of a whip. They see the shadow of the whip with their eye. They can see the shadow of the whip. Before the whip even lands, they've begun going faster. So the whip doesn't have to land on them. The second one needs a light whip. The third one, no matter how hard you whip, nothing's going to happen. The horse is going to do whatever it wants to do. So basically, don't wait for the big slaps of life. We should live in a way that the slightest nudge should be enough for us. And we get it. What do I mean by the slightest nudge? Instead of looking for permanence in this impermanent universe where everything is changing, and having some idea that, oh, this relationship will do it, or this knowledge will do it, or this money will do it, or this fame will do it, this new property I'm buying will do it, this new thing, this new gadget will do it. Finally, I've painted my house after years. Now you watch, the color therapy is going to work. Everything's going to change. Vastu has been cleared. Vastu has been fixed. I have worn the correct crystal on my right, on the correct finger. Now you watch. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to neutralize everything. What will it neutralize? Will it neutralize changing nature of the universe? Now that you've worn this crystal, nothing is going to change anymore. So instead of that, we dedicate our life to awareness. You dedicate your life to awareness, then instead of things becoming a burden, instead of them hanging around your neck like a burden, they actually start refining you. Every experience refines you. Every experience refines you. It's lighter and lighter, lighter and lighter. Even the unpleasant experiences, even the disappointing experiences. It's not to say that it's not painful. It's not to say that it's not confusing. But it takes away a chunk of an old sanskara. What's the old sanskara? Of reactivity. What's the old sanskara? Of resistance. Sanskara means a tendency, underlying tendency. So the Buddha says that one of the best ways you can use your attention, yoniso manasikara. What is yoniso manasikara? Appropriate attention. What is an appropriate place to give your attention? So one of the most skillful ways you can use your attention, yatha bhut jnana darsana, to experience things just the way they are, not adding, not subtracting, just the way they are. You know, I found this aspect of the Buddha's teaching very refreshing. Very few other traditions I found where such refreshing things are said, such as, when standing, know you're standing. When sitting, know you're sitting. When walking, know you're walking. When lying down, know you're lying down. When it's unpleasant, know it's unpleasant. When it's pleasant, know it's pleasant. When seeing, know you're seeing. When hearing, know you're hearing. When tasting, know you're tasting. When you're confused, know you're confused. I once told my teacher, I'm very confused. He said, that's clarity. I said, what's clarity? He said, you're knowing that you're confused. That's clarity. I said, wow. Knowing that you're confused is the kind of clarity. It's a great recognition. When people complain to me that the memory is fading, I said, do you know that your memory is fading? He said, yes. So that's wonderful. You know that it's fading. You're aware that you forgot. It's not so bad yet. It gets really bad when you don't even know that you forgot. That's when you're in real trouble. At least you know that you forgot. So anything that's arising within awareness is not a problem. It's not a problem. This is really wonderful. To me, at least, this is a very refreshing teaching. This is free of any extra baggage of theology and concepts. It's very straightforward. See things as they are. He's not even telling you exactly what to see. He says, go look for yourself. Check. Is it true? In the Buddha's second discourse, the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, he's asking the monks, this body, is it permanent or is it impermanent? Will it last forever? Will it not last forever? Is it changing or is it unchanged? They said, no, Lord, it's changing. Anicca bhante. And then the Buddha says, that which is changing, that which is unstable, can it be the basis of a lasting happiness, a lasting peace? But the monk said, no, Lord, it can't. How can it be? If it's constantly changing, every day some new ailment arises. Some tooth gets loose, some hair starts falling, some nails are broken, some dark circles under the eyes are coming. So many things are happening. Every day some new things happening. Then you have to Google now which cream do I apply? Now which shampoo do I apply? So the monks realized this even without all the creams and shampoos. They said, no, this cannot be a foundation for true happiness. The Buddha says, do not, that which is changing, which cannot be a stable source of well-being for you, then don't assume that to be yourself. Don't make that yourself. It's an aspect of your life. When you attach yourself to form, which is body, and you attach yourself to feelings, which is feelings, sensations, emotions, all of that, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. When you attach yourself to memories, when you attach yourself to plans and intentions and whatever you're trying to create with your life. And when you even attach yourself to consciousness, then you are bound to create the conditions of resistance. These are the five aggregates. The Buddha talks about the five aggregates: body, feelings, memories, intention, and consciousness. And by consciousness, he means the sense consciousness, sense awareness. The word consciousness is used a little differently in Advaita and in the Buddha's teachings. So to directly experience change, what does it mean to dedicate your life to awareness? directly experience change. Yatha bhut jnana darsana, to experience things just the way they are. And this is very refreshing. And you can validate again and again and again. I'll tell you one little experiment I have run thousands of times. A very simple experiment. I ask myself, in this precise moment, what's the problem? I've never once found a problem. I've never once found a problem. It's been years. Simple question. In this precise moment, what's the problem? It just is the way it is. Problem comes from it should be, it could be, it would be, I should be, I could be, I would be, you should be, you could be, you would be, they should be, they could be, the world should be, could be, would be. This is your imagination. But in this precise moment, what's the problem? What's wrong with this moment? There's nothing wrong. Welcome to heaven. Welcome to heaven for a short while. Then, of course, we'll go back into heaven, into imagination. It's like learning to surf, right? Go ahead, Ashmeet. What do you think?
So I was thinking about what it is that, is there something which doesn't change? And what I'm at, which I want your perspective on, is it's the nature of certain things that we are sort of in the human form, right? So for example, the fact that there are the 5 aggregates, as long as we're human, and sure, we can make that case that, we are also human temporarily, and then that changes too. But the nature of being human is that there are the 5 aggregates. And the other one, which I found very comforting, which I want some perspective on, is the nature of desire is not changing. And I don't mean desire necessarily as material desire. I just mean that as long as we're human, what we're doing is shaped by the fact that in human form we have desire. So I may have desire for a car. The Buddha may have desire to help others. And as long as we're human, I believe that desire will always be there with us. So
yeah, so then you're coming to what you've done is you've just gone meta on this. You've come to the level of principle, and there the Buddha agrees with you that the nature of fire is to burn, and the nature of water is to be wet or to bind. The nature of air is to move, support. The nature of earth element is heaviness and lightness, smoothness and roughness, softness and hardness. These are all the characteristics of these things. And so, yeah, so when you come to the principle level, so that's great. Then you live your life based on principles. That is the nature of things. And that's not a problem. That is becoming a lover of reality. That's the nature. Yeah. So if you tumble down the steps, you don't get angry at the steps. All the steps, that's just the nature of steps. If you tumble down steps, then you might get hurt. That's just the nature of things. No point getting upset at those things. So that doesn't cause suffering. Suffering comes from resistance. Suffering comes from arguing with reality. Suffering comes from experience multiplied by our resistance is suffering, in my understanding. Suffering comes from fixation. Suffering comes from, what's that nice, I like these two full forms of ego and God. Ego is edging God out. Thank you, I'll take care of this. And God stands for grand overall design. So there's a grand overall design, which is what you're referring to, the 5 aggregates or the nature of desire. That's the grand overall, that's just the nature of the thing. That's the way things are. And the ego comes and says, no, doesn't apply to me. All right, then you figure it out, see how it goes. And once in a while, we'll bump into the way things are. Then we'll argue with them, it shouldn't be like this. People shouldn't be like this. Men shouldn't be like this. Governments shouldn't be like this. Spiritual teachers should not be like that. Oh, really? But they are. But they shouldn't be. But they are. So, so instead of arguing with reality, become a lover of reality. Become a lover of that's the way things are. That's the principle of things. So then you are becoming a student of truth. Then you want to know the truth of things. What is the nature of things? What is the nature of desire? And then you're less disappointed. I read a little article, it was some book I was reading, and it said, what did it say? Something like, a red flag is a red flag. In other words, when someone behaves a certain way, once and twice and thrice, they're telling you that's the way they are. You know, why are you arguing with them? They no, this person is not like this. Why? That they're telling you, they're teaching you, they're showing you very clearly the way they are. And then you're trying to give excuses on their behalf for whatever reason. No, when they're showing you who they are, you trust them. You know, that's the way you are. You know, I trust you to be yourself. I don't trust you to be what you say you'll be. I trust you to be yourself. It's not good or bad. It's just, that's just the way you are right now. So a lot of our trouble comes when we don't trust people. They're showing you very clearly who they are. But you're not willing to listen. Enjoy. Face the music. Was there something else you wanted to add, Ashmeet, or is it complete?
This was perfect. Thank you.
Lovely. Good to hear from you. So for me, impermanence, anicca, the direct experience of change has been a really foundational teaching and practice. And the more I rely on that direct experience of change, like even right now, if you just join me for a few seconds, in any way, whether it's seeing or feeling or thinking, just notice change. Maybe you're noticing some sound changing, breath changing. Some of the most precious moments of your life right now. Some of the most precious moments of your life right now. Anicca vada sankhara. Anicca vada sankhara. Upadavaya dhammino. Anicca vada sankhara. Upadavaya dhammino. Uppajjitva nirujjanti. Te samavupasamo sukho. Te samavupasamo sukho. Anicca sankhara uppadavaya dhammina uppajjitva nirujjanti te samavupasamo sukho. Anicca vata sankhara, impermanent, changing, uncertain, mine, is the nature of all conditioned things. Anicca vata sankhara. Uppa dve dhammino. Uppad means arises, and dve means fades away. Dhammino means it is the nature of. Anicca vata sankhara. The nature of all conditioned things is to arise and pass away. Uppadve dhammino. Uppajjitva nirujjanti. The arising was seen, and so was the fading away. The arising was seen, and so was the fading away. Uppajjitva nirujjanti. Te samavupasamo sukho. So here there is a stainless happiness, pure happiness. Nobody can blame this kind of happiness. Nobody can fault this kind of happiness. The happiness of seeing things arise and passing away. Seeing things arise and passing away. Instead of getting caught up that, oh, it shouldn't arise or it shouldn't pass away. With the unpleasant, we say it shouldn't arise. With the pleasant, we say it shouldn't pass away. But the truth is it arises and it passes. It arises and it passes. So when arising, let it arise. When passing, let it pass away. Uppajjitva nirujjanti. Te samavupasamo sukho. Now this is happiness for no reason. Now you've discovered a deeper happiness than the usual happiness. And the more we can attune ourselves to this happiness, it's a acquired taste. It's not something that we necessarily are immediately drawn to, but it's an acquired taste. But once you acquire a taste for this happiness of being, not happiness of acquiring and doing and achieving and all of those things, that's fine. But there's a deeper happiness, the happiness of being. Happiness as your nature, not happiness as a little visitor that comes once in a while. The happiness of your being. You know, this universe, according to Kashmir Shaivism, it makes sense to me. This universe is actually made of intense bliss. Whether or not you are experiencing intense bliss, but this universe is made of intense bliss, incredible bliss. But we have to drill down a little bit to get it. Otherwise, we're covered up with our concepts. We're covered up with our preferences. So what would it take for us to experience that intense bliss? So for me, this teaching of anicca, impermanence, not just as a concept, but as a living reality, as something I can come home to again and again and again. When everything is changing, what's the most reliable thing? Change itself. When everything is changing, change itself is the most reliable. You make change your foundation. The Zen master goes to a pizza shop. So pizza guy says, what kind of pizza do you want? So Zen master just come from meditating. So he's not thinking too much. Mind is quiet in a no mind kind of state. So he can't think. So he's just saying, make me one with everything. Pizza guy says, make you one with everything. Okay. So he makes him a pizza with everything. Make me one with everything. All right. So the Zen master enjoys his pizza. It's time to pay the bill. So Zen master only has $100. He gives $100. He's waiting for the change. The pizza guy is not giving the change. He says, Zen master, what about my change? So now it's the pizza guy's turn. He says, change must come from within. Change must come from within. So if you want to be one with everything, then the change must come from within. You have to experience change from within. Then you'll realize you're one with everything. Why are you one with everything? Because the nature of everything is to change. So now suddenly you can feel an affinity with the clouds and the mountains and the trees and the birds and the animals. Why? Because you have the same. You're also changing. They're also changing. We're all actually in the same predicament. We're all in the same predicament. So we can have compassion. What is compassion? Common passion. What is common passion? We all want to be happy. We all want to escape suffering, and we all want to be happy. And we all have our own unique strategies. And we all think we're smarter than the others. My strategy is better than yours. Family is most important. Cleanliness is most important. Okay. Getting vaccinated is most important. All right. Everyone's got their own strategy. If you do this and this and this, everything's going to be wonderful. But then sooner or later, we realize all strategies really fail. Because it's demanding complete surrender. It's like this is demanding giving all of ourselves, not just some of ourselves. So hopefully we can get enough of a taste of this that we can rely on this change. Rely on this change. I love this quote by Rumi. Rumi says, love will burn you. And that's not a problem. Love will burn you, and that's not a problem. The problem is you burn incompletely. What a great quote. So somebody asked a question some time back about love. You know, love is going to burn you. And so the question is, can we burn completely? When you burn completely, then the ego also burns completely. Edging God out burns completely. And then there's no separation. It's the wisdom of non-separation. Just seeing the chat window. What about the function of the eye to see, not changing? Have we talked about this, Ashmi? Yeah. Good. Yeah. All right. So we have this curriculum we'll be following. Today we've talked about impermanence, the direct experience of change. And so every full moon, new moon, we'll take up one of the 24 topics that have been recommended that most of you have found helpful, and we'll explore it more deeply. And apart from that, you're welcome to sign up for my new course, which is Being and Blossoming, which is going to be a year-long practice course. Some of you already signed up. I'll share a link for that if you like. It's also on my website, nithyanti.com. And what else? Any other announcements? My book has been released, like I said. You're welcome to get a copy for yourself if you like. I'm actually in the process of recording the audiobook right now, so you'll get that as well. So on. Shanti. That's the link to my new course if you want to join. We've already begun having some sessions. Some of you who have already joined, tomorrow morning we'll have a session at 9 a.m. if you're part of the Lotus group. That's pretty much what I have. Does anybody want to ask something or say something? But to help someone who's suffering deeply, financially and otherwise, at one point, one feels so helpful and overdone with compassion fatigue. Helpless. One feels so helpless and overdone with compassion fatigue. Yeah, you can't give more than you have. So then you replenish yourself, you strengthen yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. So we're slowly building our capacity. And I like this quote: don't pretend yourself beyond your evolution. Jitna evolution hai, you work within that. Don't pretend yourself beyond your evolution. But that doesn't mean, see, just because you can't help everyone, doesn't mean you can't help someone. You can all help someone. So you do what you can. And little by little, your capacity will also grow. Your capacity to support and help people will grow as it goes along. Sometimes I get overwhelmed with emails. I get way too many emails and messages. And I can't reply to them all. Or if I was to reply to them all, I'd be sitting all day just in front of my phone the whole time. So sometimes I'll see a message which I missed replying to. I'm getting back to this person 1 or 2 months later and think, how's it going? And they've written me a long message about what's not working well. So how's it going? And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time they're like, oh, now it's much better. I thought, oh, great. So even without my replying, things are much better. So in other words, things sort themselves out. And you don't have to feel that if you can't help this person, that they're going to be helpless. It's not true. Just wish them well and you do your own practice. And as you build your own capacity, you will realize that help is available in many different ways. And sometimes what appears like a very big crisis, like, when a seed is germinating, it has to split open. The germination of the seed means it has to split open. That's like a catastrophe. The seed is dying. The seed has to die for the sapling to be born. So how do you know what this person is? Now, we don't have to rationalize it, of course, but how can you be so sure that it's a bad thing? Suffering deeply sometimes for some people is what it takes for that seed to ripen and break open. Of course, we'll try to alleviate to the extent we can, but don't pull yourself down in the process. Right? So have compassion for yourself as well. Siddheshwar, what do you think?
Yes, sir. I do meditation. At that time, I feel very neutral, sir. Means complete detachment from mind and body. Okay. But after 1 hour, 2 hour, that state will be maintained. After that, automatically everything is going to collapse. So for 24/7, if I have to stay in a neutral state, so what to do for that? And awareness height also will decrease.
Yeah. So we need to go to a deeper level because right now there's still a slight attachment to that neutrality, and then the neutrality gets disturbed. But Siddheshwar, notice how when you meditate and you feel neutral for a short while or for a longer while, a part of you is knowing, I'm neutral now. And after a while, it starts to degenerate. A part is, oh, I'm losing it now. And then you get into a big argument with someone at home. Oh my God, I've lost it completely. I'm not a spiritual person anymore. And then, but notice a part of you is noticing all of this. A part of you is noticing how Siddheshwar is behaving in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. That's the true neutrality, not the neutrality that comes as a result of meditation. So what you're really trying to get to is to recognize that there's a part of you that is forever unaffected. Things are coming and going. In your life, how many times you've meditated, how many times you felt neutral, how many times you've again got activated. As long as you associate yourself with the body and mind and the states of the body and mind, even if it's a pleasant state, if in your case that neutrality is quite pleasant, like an equanimous state, it still changes. So that which comes and goes, Ramana Maharshi said, if it comes and goes, it's not the reality yet. That which comes and goes, that which can be perceived or conceived, said Nisargadatta Maharaj. If it can be perceived, described, conceived, right now you described it. If it can be described, if it can be perceived, it's not your true nature yet. So you're on the right track. Keep going. I don't think you're doing anything wrong. And this juxtaposition, this inner conflict, this contrast, this pleasant, unpleasant, this inner peace versus outer volatility. This is actually very much part of the process. And this tumultuous, up and down, unpleasant, this is the tapasya that you're doing. Just keep going, be patient, and at the right time, the ripening will happen. And you will more and more rest as awareness, not in the states of awareness, not in the objects of awareness. Even neutrality is an object of awareness. How did you get to neutrality? In your meditation, you were aware. That's how neutrality showed up. Then little by little, you got caught up in the objects of your experience, and the neutrality went away. That's all right. So in the beginning, it's a bit of an artificial, manufactured neutrality. But as you go along, that is the nature. That is your true nature. So I think you're on the right track. Anything you want to add to what was just shared?
I got the right point, sir. Full of presence with consciousness feeling we need to do everything.
Very
And
nice.
actually my mind is coming and telling you are doing this, you need to be aware, like that.
Yeah,
But actually that is not true.
Just be patient.
Only, yeah. I got that point, very important.
Good, you're on the right track, and this is all, it's all part of the process. Yeah, it's not that you're doing anything wrong. This is part of the process. Good, well done. Good, thank you. All right, everybody, thank you for joining, and please take rest. Some of you are asking when my book will arrive. It will arrive at the right time. Mine, it's uncertain. Some people ordered my book and they got Sadhguru's book by mistake. Not one, two people got it. This is wonderful. Maybe you're meant to read Sadhguru's book, not mine. Mine, you order Nithya Shanti's book, you get Sadhguru's book. When will the book be available in US? I think just be patient, it will come in a few months. But again, you never know, mine might not come. I should have changed the name of my book from Unburdened to Uncertain. All right, everyone, take rest. Make a Mayurma, take your hands up. Make the symbol behind me. Take your hands up. Draw a big heart in the air. And make a lying down 8 3 times. Infinity. And huge. Come to your heart and say with me, Mayurma. Lots of love. Take a minute of silence before you sleep tonight. Be well. Bye-bye. Thank you.